Parshat Kitetse, and this parsha we're going to. It's on page, by the way, 1046. 1046. In this parsha, we have a famous rule that mitzvah goreret mitzvah and avera goreret avera. And here we're looking at avera goreret avera, that one sin leads to another. We also have what we call smichot haparshiyot, which is the connection of one parsha to the next. This is where Rashi, normally throughout the whole Torah, Rashi doesn't really make those connections, but in the Sefer Devarim, the book of Deuteronomy, it's a constant. Why is this paragraph connected to this paragraph? We have what we call smichut. They're connected. But here you'll see what's going on. We're dealing with a war, as Rashi will tell us, which is a war that is not commanded. So what happens? When you go out to war against your enemies, and what we're talking about again, as Rashi says, we're talking about a war that you have permission to wage or not to wage. There's no command to wage this war, unlike in Eretz Yisrael, where we were commanded to wipe out the 7 nations. Okay, so this is why would you go to war? By the way. Simple things.
If you were attacked.
One is for defense. What's another reason? Because it is v'kitetz milchama. What else? What reason do you normally wage war besides being attacked? To take their stuff. I want their stuff. Okay. So I want your stuff. I'm going to go to war. So kitetz milchama alevecha. Why is it tough to say alevecha? Isn't it obvious you're going out against the war against your enemies? Is that obvious? I don't go to war against my friends, right? Yeah. It's not your friends. The South was the enemy of the North.
Not even in the beginning, when it first started?
No, I mean,
What if it's a
talking about Southern Israel, right?
No, which one are you talking about? The American Civil War? Or?
What? You said Southern, now it's confusing. No, it's not North because of the kingdom. Okay, no. I was talking about it could be the North and South Kingdom, that they're separate kingdoms and separate sovereignties. I'm talking about when the tribes see the people on the other side of the Jordan building what looks like a temple, it looks like an altar, right? And then it gets really close to a civil war.
Oh, so they were going that they viewed them as enemies in that. They did not view them as friends. They did not view them as brothers. Again, if they viewed them as brothers, they would have talked it out. That was the point. They would have talked it out and they would have said, what's going on? What are you doing? But because they viewed them as enemies, the enemies of the state, or whatever you want to call that, so they were willing to go to war. You normally don't go to war against your friends.
So that's not a war.
Correct. It wouldn't be a war.
You can't go to war against your friends because once you go to war, not your friends.
Correct. So the question is, why is it tough to say when you go to war against your enemies? Obviously it's your enemy. Yeah.
I was going to say, what about like in the case of a civil situation, like you mentioned the Civil War, where there's a coup to overthrow the leadership or something like that.
But again, one side's the enemy.
They would become, I guess.
They are the enemies. So what we're hearing here is, and I forget who says it, but when you capture them, you shouldn't treat them like friends because they won't treat you like friends. In other words, when I go to war against my brother, okay, so like Binyamin went against Bnei Israel, or the other way around, Bnei Israel went against Binyamin. When they would capture each other, there was a chance that they would have compassion. When we go to war against our enemy, our real enemies, so then they have no compassion if they would catch us. So we should also not have compassion on them. Again, so when you go to get war against your enemies, and again, who is your enemies? That's another question that we can also. Some people say we're talking about the Yetzer Hara. I think that's the. I'm pretty sure that was the Kli Yakar who says it's talking about the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. Regardless, so what happens? And Hashem gives it, your enemy, into your hand. That was under your power. Shavita shivio. and you capture a captive, and we're talking about, and Rashi says, "L'rabot Canaanim shebetocha af al pi she'hen mishiva umot," and this is even including one of the Canaanites, one of the 7 people. It was one of the 7 nations that were found amongst your enemy. Let's say they moved from Canaan and they went to this land where the enemy where you were attacking. So now you capture them. You don't have to kill them. In other words, if a Canaanite would live in Moab, for instance, you wouldn't have to kill him because he left the area. So now, if you capture that person, he's no longer a quote unquote a Canaanite that you'd have to kill. The only people he had to kill were the ones in the nations, in the 7 nations that were in Canaan. So what happens here? You captured a captive. Amongst those captives, you among those captives you see a beautiful woman, a woman of beautiful appearance, and you desire her. And you'll take her for a wife. Now, here's a strange thing. Rashi says, the Torah. Before we get to Rashi, let's understand his problem. You're in a war. Who goes into the war? The Jewish wars. Who's the only people really going into the wars? Think back to what we said last week with Shoftim. The judges, the people come out and say, if you got married and you didn't have your wife, you got engaged, you didn't marry your wife, you planted a vineyard, you didn't get you didn't reap yet, you built a house, you didn't live there yet. Those who are afraid of war, go home. Who's left? Only tzaddikim. You have only righteous people who are left. So what's going on? Every time you go to war, every time you go to war, you have only tzaddikim. Only the righteous will go into war. The other ones stay home. Now this righteous person who's waging war, they get a captive and he sees, oh, she's a nice looking lady. I'll take her home. She's a goy. What are you taking home a non-Jew for? Leave me alone. You're a righteous person. You have to follow the mitzvot. And as Rashi will tell you, it means even an Eshet Ish, even if she's married, I can take her home. Doesn't matter. I see her, no problem. Honey, you're with me. And I take her home. What kind of righteous person is this? What kind of war are we raging? How could Hashem allow this to happen? Your question was?
What's the things, if you're married but haven't consummated marriage?
Say again? If you're married, you didn't consummate. Yes.
One of those, what if you're not married? You don't have a house, you don't have a vineyard.
Well,
you don't have any of those things, so you're not supposed to. So you can, well.
Then the other one.
You're not afraid of war.
If you're not afraid of war, then why would anybody be afraid of war? By the way.
You're not prepared.
No, because they sinned and they were afraid they'd be killed. So who's not going to be afraid? In other words, if you and I am an avowed coward. I said it openly for the world to hear. I'm an avowed coward. When I was in college, because as an American citizen, I had to sign up for the draft. Register. I had to register. Not the draft. I had to register.
When did they do away with it now?
The draft was done away with Nixon. After that war, whatever war that was, the Vietnam War, they did away with it.
First part of the 70s, late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah. So when I got out of when I became 18, I had to register, and I was in college, and at that point it was Carter. I believe Carter was the president. Yeah. I'm really dating myself for those who understand the age here, and Carter was an idiot, plain and simple. Guy, it was the worst thing. Well, I don't know. We have competition for the worst, but it was the worst thing for a college kid, certainly. And we were in the Iranian hostage crisis, and war was looming. I would go to bed because I was just the age that they would draft.
18, 20-ish.
Yeah, I was right in that age group, and I went to bed every night thinking, am I going to be called to service? Because I didn't know if they were going to start a war. That's a very scary situation to have to do that. until finally it was over. And then what's his name came in? Reagan came in. And when I hit 24, I rejoiced because I knew I was too old already. I was the happiest camper, but I was also out of college, and woe wasn't that looming. But in that time of Reagan, the hostage crisis, whatever year that actually was, I think it was probably 79, something like that, or 80. It was around the election time. It was around election time.
81. Yeah, that's right. It ended when he came in.
There you go. So
81.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was election time. I remember 'cause that was the whole thing.
Just when he took over, I think, is when they gave them up.
Yeah, Reagan got him out. That's it, because I'm going to blow you up. If you
Yeah.
don't, I'll blow you up. I don't care.
Yeah.
And they were saying cowboy. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. But you were scared. So I say openly, I never wanted to go. I signed up because I had to sign up. Because I was afraid that if I go over, I could die, Hashem become crippled, or whatever else. I mean, how many kids from Vietnam came home and had nothing? No arms, no this.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm saying it was horrible, and so you were afraid. So anybody like that was exempted from the army. So all I have left is those people who are relying upon Hashem. That's why they're tzaddikim. They say I'm doing everything right. Hashem won't allow me to die in this battle because I'm following the law. I'm a tzaddik that way. Okay, you have to judge yourself, I guess. But what I'm saying is that's why we say that the people who went into the army were tzaddikim. There was no Rasha'im there. Rasha'im, who would want to die? Yeah.
So, but could you count as a righteous person if you didn't have a wife or one of the following things? Because
say it again. Could I what?
If you didn't have a wife, because that's a mitzvah. Or any of the following.
No, so I'm saying, but the last one would get me out if I'm afraid of war.
No, I know, but if you have to be not afraid of war, which means you're not afraid to die, or you're not worried that you're gonna die, or if you do die,
so then
you're good. If you're not married, you don't have children, you haven't fulfilled the mitzvah, so you might die and get punished for that. So would you have to go home even if you weren't married?
No. If you weren't married, if you didn't have those things, and if you weren't afraid because you were living a righteous life, so Hashem will bless you another time. You should go. Go ahead. That's all to say. Okay. Yeah.
It's off subject. It's not off subject. It is a subject, but it's more like this. Again, it's a secular view. It's not. We're supposed to be the right. The people who are left are the righteous people who believe that God won't let me die, and if He does, it's all for the good, etc., etc. But I guess the incorrect, or I don't know, the secular view would be, realistically, what are we looking at? We're looking at people who are not married, people who don't have any property to take care of, people who are afraid to die, people who have nothing that they feel is worth living for, as the army. These are the kind of people that they would go to the bars and draft into the Navy, the British would, in history. If you look at a secular point of view, these are the people. They go out and get wives.
Again, but we're looking at it from a religious point of view.
Right. What would righteous people be doing claiming wives, if you think of it like a...
Claiming wives?
Wives in war, if it's such a righteous person.
Because they can have more than one wife.
No, that's what I mean. If he's such a righteous person, why would he...
Oh, good question. Great question. And that's what we're going to deal with. That's my point. First of all, why would they do it? If they're tzaddikim, why would they do it? Great question. That's where I was going. But the second thing is, why would Hashem allow it?
Right.
That's the biggest question. Hashem is saying, when you see them, you can take them. You desire them. You desire her, You desire her. You can take her for a wife. Not rape. Let's understand this. You're taking her for a wife. In other words, you can't just have sex with her and leave her by the side. Say, thank you very much, honey, and goodbye. Okay, it's not that. You have to take her as a wife. And we'll see what's going to happen more. I'll just run through it, and then we'll come back. Because I want people to get this. You bring her back to your house. Okay, the house that you always stay at. You shave her hair off her head. Why would you do that? What makes a woman attractive for the most part?
Her
hair. The women, the way they have their hair is a very attractive thing. You're normally not going to go out with a bald woman. Okay? Take that hair off, and you're done. Va'asata, and then it says, and you should let her. Well, this is an interesting question. Asata etzei parneha. Either you cut her fingernails, That's one way to look at it. Or you let them grow long.
Oh.
In other words, what makes her ugly? You're trying to make her look ugly. Okay? You remove from her the dress of her captivity. What? Why would you do that? Because the nation sent out their women dressed to kill, if you will. In other words, beautifully dressed. They would go out so that the men would see them and want to prostitute themselves after them, and that's how they would get them immorals. So, because God hates immorality. So here, take off that dress, male left from honor, and she will sit in your main house. And she's going to cry over the loss of her father, and her mother for 1 month. All this time, by the way, your wife, the Jewish one, is walking around all bedecked with her jewelry. She's looking nice. She's wearing good clothes. So you're seeing the difference between what you thought you liked, and of course, who you have in your house with your wife and the kids and everything else. She's happy, and this woman is crying constantly. And if you survive that, after 1 month, then you come to her and you have relations with her. And she will be a wife to you. She's not a concubine. She's a wife. So you forced a conversion on this poor girl. We forced a conversion on this girl. You're not making her, she's Jewish at this point. You throw her to the mikvah, done. It's a done deal. Okay? And then it says, but if he doesn't desire her after that month of seeing all the stuff, if he doesn't desire her, you send her away. In other words, you don't send her back to her home because, you destroyed that. There's nothing there. So what?
You probably took it over too, so it's still, you're sending back to her home or her country.
You send her off. You say you're free. That's the bottom line. You're free because remember she converted. So if we convert her by force, so if she decides, I want to remain Jewish, she's already done. But this is the only conversion that we allow to revert because we converted by force. So now if she says, I don't want to be like you, so fine, she goes back to her idolatry. But we can't aid and abet this person by sending her back, because then we're certainly sending her to idolatry. So that's why we just say, send her off. We cannot sell her for money, because that would be the Havamina, right? If I have this girl, why not sell her? And you should not exchange her, enslave her, because you have afflicted her by bringing her in the first place. Now, why did Hashem allow this? Rashi says an amazing thing. It says, Lo dibra Torah ela keneged Yetzer Hara. The Torah is only talking corresponding or opposite the Yetzer Hara. A tzaddik has a Yetzer Hara. As big as a tzaddik is, as great as he is, his Yetzer Hara also has to be great. Remember, I've always said this: Yetzer and Yetzer Tov are equal partners. Once one would get over the other one, it's no longer a fair fight. So they both have to be equal in strength. So if I'm a tzaddik, if I'm doing all these things, if I'm so tuned into the spiritual world, if I have this devekis to Hashem and so on and so forth, my Yetzer Hara is also that strong. And I'm in the midst of war. I may never see my wife. I may never see my family again. And I may be afraid, I'm not sure. But whatever it is, suddenly I see in front of me a beautiful, what I consider, by the way, to be beautiful. You may consider ugly. Let's understand that too. I'm the only one. So what it means is, I can't say, you know what? I like her for me. I like him for Avi. Her for Avi. Her for Shmuel. Oh, Mr. O needs one too. I'll bring a whole bevy of beauties home. No. I can't even do it for my son. It has to be for me. Okay? So if I'm doing that, so then is speaking against the Yetzer Hara, because why? If Hashem didn't allow this to happen, then this tzaddik is going to marry her against the law. Because one thing that trumps religion, I've said it many times, is sex. What we call love conquers all, is really lust. Yeah. I've said this 1,000 times. Lust conquers everything. That's why people who they know they shouldn't marry non-Jews, And but they'll take them out to go to the movies, or they'll do whatever, and they say, I'll never marry them. No. That's your biggest mistake. Because once you get to know them, they're people too. They're nice people. They're very sweet people. Well, the only reason we don't marry non-Jews is because God said not to. That's just a command. That's nothing else. That's the only reason you shouldn't marry a non-Jew. Because it's a command not to marry a non-Jew. But if I'm in that environment and I put myself there, so that's going to take over. My feelings will take over, and then I'm going to want to marry that Jew, so that non-Jew. So he says, what happens though? If you marry this girl, so now this is the connection we were talking about. In the end, you're going to hate her. Right now you lost her. And you want to be with her. And you survive that 30 days. Her hair is shaven. She's walking around in sackcloth all day. She's crying, making you miserable. But you survive it. Yay! Yay! You marry her. Oh, this is not going to be good because you're going to come to hate her. And then what's going to happen? Then you're going to have children with her. And the odds are she's going to have, according to this, she'll have the first child. So now he'll be the firstborn, and you don't want to give her firstborn all your money because you don't like her. It's a revenge against the wife. And then what's worse is this child will become as ben soreh or moreh, a rebellious child, which you'll have to kill. Well, you'll have the court killed. And if you don't, he's going to become a thief and kill other people. So all this is one connection to the other. It's amazing. Yeah.
So starting from the top.
Yeah.
God allows this because it will ultimately happen. If it says no, then people start breaking the law just because it happens.
Right. And if he says yes, what will happen?
And then it'll go down the crack.
No, if he says yes, what will happen? It won't necessarily happen. In other words, if I say to you, you can do this, so then it's no longer forbidden fruit. If it's no longer forbidden fruit, then you don't have such a Yetzer Hara to do it. It's only when I tell you, you can't do this. Then you're thinking, why can't I do it? What's it going to hurt? By the way, again, that's why people go out with non-Jews. Because they think, what's going to happen? I'll kiss a non-Jew. Nothing's going to happen. No, you're an idiot. I can't help you more than that. You're just an idiot. Things will happen. There's a slippery slope here. But and again, they're wonderful people. I have no problem with non-Jews. Okay, they're absolutely wonderful people. Some of them, and some Jews are wonderful, and some of us are horrible. But the point is, they're humans, and humans is black, white, yellow. I don't care what color they are. They're all people. Are people. People are nice generally. Again, you have the Michiganders out there. You have the nuts and the horrible people. But for the most part, we're good people. So once I get to know you, and I'm eating with you, and I'm playing with you, and so on and so forth, the odds are we can go further. So we're saying So we say don't do it, right? But that's a normal situation. But if I put you into a situation, I tell you, you can't do this. Look what happened to Adam Arishon. God himself, if you will, spoke to Adam, told him, don't eat from that tree. He picks up the tree. Here's the tree. Here's the fruit. It's the only one you can't eat from. Everything else you can do. And what happened? Adam, he couldn't resist. Couldn't resist. His wife, I tell you, if my wife brought something I knew was poison to me, and she said, here, have it, it's great, I'd say, have a good day. I love knowing you, baby. You're through? God, that's up to you, man. You ate it, you're an idiot. I can't help you more than that. I wouldn't touch it. Why would I touch something that's poison? Okay, but it shows you how strong the Yetzer Hara is. By the way, we'll have to stop here, but in another part of the Torah, it says a couple of times you shouldn't eat blood. Yeah, a couple of times it says it. And so the rabbis point out something that is disgusting to people, so disgusting to people, that who would drink blood? I mean, real blood. I'm not talking about gravy or something that comes from the meat, but real blood. Who's going to drink it? It's disgusting to most people. And yet the Torah says, look at the reward you get. So for something light, and yet we wouldn't really want to do it, we get rewarded. How much more so for those things we want to do? Okay, and we don't do it because God says not to. Like I said, Adam was a perfect proof of God himself is saying, don't eat it, and he does. So here, Hashem, as it were, said to us, it's not what I want from you. But if you see this and you're desirous of it, and so you have to take her home. By the way, you can't rape her on the fly either. You can't just say, okay, I want to have sex with you, done. You have to take this girl home. You have to follow this procedure, and then you do it. And Hashem said, okay, that's opposite, that's corresponding to Yetzer Hara. If you really need to do it, and you're going to end up doing it, so at least do it a proper way. By the way, for those who, and we discussed this a while ago too, for those who hold that eating meat is not the best thing in the world, right? It's not where we're supposed to be because Adam didn't have meat, or he wasn't supposed to. What happens? We're told how to shecht the meat. Hashem said, if you're going to eat the meat, you have to do it my way. Okay, so a lot of things that Hashem says to us connect the Yetzer Hara. Obviously, the Yetzer Hara. If you're going to do it, you have to do it my way. So it still puts a chain on us. And if without that chain, though, Hashem knows us, that we would break it anyway. So let me make it legal for you. And hopefully by doing that, you'll end up not doing it. You'll find out you don't need it as much. But okay. But in this case, it happened, yeah.
Right, so back where I was at the top, you're allowed to do this because you're ultimately going to, and if you're told not to, you'll want it even more. So
right.
You're allowed to do it because it's going to happen.
Right.
And then ultimately, it's only going to end up bad.
Correct. It's going to end up bad.
It ends horribly.
Yep. Okay, we'll have to stop here.